Have you ever looked closely at a modern smartphone? It looks less like a phone and more like the eyes of a spider. We carry clusters of 3, 4, or even 5 separate lenses. Why do we need an array instead of just one really good lens? To answer that, we have to look at a traditional camera. When you take a picture, light enters the front glass and travels in a straight line to hit the sensor in the back. Capturing a sharp image requires a very specific physical distance between that glass and the sensor. To optically zoom in, you push the glass further away. That's why traditional lenses telescope outward. But in the early 2000s, consumer electronics were moving in the exact opposite direction. The market demanded sleek, ultra-thin gadgets that could easily slide into a jacket pocket. Engineers found themselves trapped in a paradox. The evolution of the pocket camera over the last 20 years is a continuous mechanical war against the rigid laws of three-dimensional space. The first major engineering workaround around 2005, when designers realized they had to abandon the straight line. This is transverse optics. Instead of traveling straight back, light hits a front prism, instantly bouncing 90 degrees straight down. By folding the light, the zoom assembly rotates. Internal lenses move vertically inside the chassis. The glass travels, but the camera's exterior stays completely flat. This vertical periscope mechanism was the hidden engine inside the premium, metal-bodied digital cameras of the mid-2000s. Folding light temporarily saved the dedicated digital camera, but it also laid the mechanical blueprint for the device that would eventually render it obsolete, the smartphone. At exactly the same time, mobile phone manufacturers were trying to squeeze camera components into their own highly restrictive plastic frames. Because they couldn't fit traditional optical zoom into a flat phone, companies resorted to hardware experiments. Devices like the Nokia N93i were built with massive barrel hinges and flip-out bodies, contorting the phone to mimic digital camcorders for the moving glass. These hybrids successfully achieved optical zoom, but buyers rejected them. Consumers overwhelmingly wanted the perfectly flat glass rectangles that were beginning to dominate the market. Hardware solutions alone were a dead end. Mobile phones simply couldn't accommodate large optical mechanics without losing their identity as pocketable screens. Since engineers couldn't shrink the mechanical zoom, they decided to augment it with software. This new approach took off in 2016 with devices like the Huawei P9. Instead of using one thick, moving lens, companies began building systems that relied on 2 flat, side-by-side sensors. This illustrates the dual lens logic. The camera captures a full color and a monochrome image simultaneously. Grabbing 2 frames at once artificially doubles the light taken in. The processor mathematically combines these streams, using their slight perspective difference to digitally simulate optical depth and background blur. This shifted the burden of photography. While the camera still needed physical lenses to function, the ability to create depth was no longer a task for moving glass. It was now defined by how well a processor could calculate it. Which brings us back to the spider-like clusters on the back of the device in your pocket right now. Today's phones bypass the geometry problem by using an array of dedicated lenses. Instead of forcing one lens to physically extend, the system jumps from an ultra-wide sensor to a telephoto sensor, or to a macro lens. And for extreme optical zoom, that 90-degree periscope trick from 2005 has been resurrected. Modern manufacturers bury telephoto lenses horizontally across the back of the phone to buy themselves a few extra millimeters of lateral space. Computational algorithms act as the bridge here, smoothing the handover between these separate sensors to create the feeling of a single, continuous zoom. We didn't break the laws of physics. Instead, we folded light sideways, multiplied the eyes of the device, and used software to simulate the depth that a thin